Good evening, it is 6:30 and I call this meeting to order. First, can we do the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will we have a roll call, please?
Students and Mayor Pro Tem Fishman,
Here.
Trustee Check. Here. Trustee Foster.
Here.
Here. Okay. Trustee Hunter.
Here.
Trustee Ostrander.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a quorum.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to ask for approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second. All those in favor? Amendments. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Kurt.
Clay, our town attorney has asked to address the board about some questions regarding Stephanie's leaving. If you would allow that.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion for approval of the amended agenda.
Where would we like to place that on the agenda?
Does he usually attend the whole meeting or just part of it? or-
Yeah, he's here.
He's here. What's his preference?
I think if you're gonna add the agenda item, I'd ask that you add it under the fair notice exception and attach it as discussion of Administrator Nguyen status with agenda item number 4, 5, or 6, I think is appropriate. So 4A, or 4, or 5A, 6A, whatever you want to do it.
Okay, so for clarity, can I withdraw my initial motion, Ruben?
Well, you can just amend it.
I always, this stuff always confuses me. What order does this need to happen in? So I can just amend my motion and then the second can
Yes.
accept that? Okay, I'd like to amend my motion to include the discussion mentioned by the attorney to agenda item number 4.
Agenda item number 4.
That's what Clay had just recommended.
Yeah, but I don't know which letter.
Oh, I'm sorry, under actions presentations, item G, number 4.
I'll second that.
Well, I think, does the original second need to accept that?
Yes.
Because it's an amended motion.
Accept the amendment and second the amended motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries based on voting results. I have some announcements. There's an open seat on the Paonia Board of Trustees. Come help us. You must have lived in town limits for at least a year and be a registered voter. Board meetings are the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. With the possibility of special meetings and work sessions as scheduled. Please turn in your application and letter of interest to the town clerk by July 1st, 2026 at noon. There's also an open seat on the Paonia Planning Commission. You must live within town limits to serve on the commission. Meetings are first Monday of the month. Please turn in your application and letter of interest to the town clerk by July 1st, 2026 at noon. And there's an open seat on the Paonia Zoning Board of Adjustment. We need some help. We need you guys. You do not have to live in town to serve on this board. This board only meets when there is business to put before it. Please turn in your application and letter of interest to the town clerk by July 1st, 2026 at noon. We are now at the public comment portion of our meeting. If there's anyone in the audience or on Zoom that would like to speak on any topic not on the agenda, please raise your hand and this is your opportunity to do so. I will call you up State your name, whether you live in town, out of town, and you have 3 minutes to address the board on any topic not on the agenda. Yes, sir.
So I thought when I was here last Tuesday, and then I do it. That, I made a note work session on West Elk Loop next Tuesday. This kind of is next Tuesday, so I'm confused more often than not, but I did make a note that there was gonna be a work session and it was gonna deal with the West Elk Loop. I was wrong. So I'm not on the agenda, but I'd like to speak. The topic is the Badger Cellular, the Orion LET endpoint to Beacon AMA software that I think is being considered for the cellular meters. And encourage you to have a tremendous amount of information out there about how much this equipment is going to be cost. The Badger stuff is some of the most expensive in the industry. And the technology and the network service that it requires to operate and collect the data is an ongoing cost that some small communities have found become burdensome over time. The other issue is, I hope you're all up on the consumer rights issues that are going on in the utility industries. It's been playing out in the electrical industry of providing electricity being monitored or metered through cellular devices now. And the amount of data that collect, what has emerged is a citizens advocate group and some law firms interested in class action suits suggesting that the level of the collection of that data and its specificity violates the Fourth Amendment illegal search. This has been really enough in that industry that Colorado has some legislation already passed to give consumers more rights. But you may say, well, it doesn't matter, that's for private ownership subdivisions only, at 500,000 or more, can't happen here. But there's a lot of interest by consumer advocate groups and in the class action suit line of this that will play out in water. And the reason for that is that the specificity of the data points for water are much more discrete than they are in electricity. It's very simple to think about it in the way that there are a lot more outlets in a house than there are toilets. And so the argument is developing here that data is being collected about the lifestyle of people that is supposed to be private through the collection of 15-minute samples of their water use that can give more specific information about what they're doing than in the field of electricity. I would encourage you to really try to get on top of this while you still have time.
Thank you very much for your information. Anybody else? Anyone on Zoom?
What happened to the work session?
Was last Tuesday.
No, but that was on the 4 days for the $500,000, and then it was said, okay, next Tuesday we'll do West Loop work session. I wrote it down.
I believe that that's one of the next things that's gonna be addressed by the engineers. But we could go back and look at the.
That's okay, so it is gonna be done sometime if I can just
It's
remember.
not
and
coming,
it's-
yeah, I don't think we have a date yet.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
My mistake, not my first.
There's a lot of information.
Okay, then. So I guess we're moving on to the consent agenda. Trustees, are there any changes or questions on any item in the consent agenda?
I had a question about when it would be appropriate to talk about new business and oh, sorry, not on the consent agenda. I have no questions about the consent agenda.
Okay. Can someone make a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Next, we have our interim town administrator, Greg Sun, providing the administrator's report and departmental scorecard update.
Did you have a chance to read the memo I put in here?
And the,
Impact.
yes, I believe I.
Most of it points to issues that are on the agenda, but I was just wondering if you had any questions about anything I typed in there. In addition to that, last night at the zoning board of adjustment, they heard an appeal for a denial of a building permit for someone who wanted to renovate backyard cottage or ADU or whatever you call these things. Just not in pure credit. So and they said, they asked a question of why those issues can't be resolved administratively rather than coming to the Board of Adjustment, because it's really not a variance. Variance should only be awarded because of an issue with the lay of the land, stops you from building. And I think a lot of these issues probably can be resolved administratively if you don't object to them, where the issue that would be addressed is the moratorium on water taps. And if someone is already connected to the water system, they're not installing a new water tap, and they're not changing the footprint of one of these outbuildings, there probably, at least in my view, there probably shouldn't be an objection to them. If they're, even though they've been in existence for a long time, if they're changing the footprint, then we got to deal with setback issues and all of those kind of things. But if they're not changing what the building looks like, they're just doing internal renovations, they're not adding a water tap, I don't know if that's really that big of an issue. It helps us maintain good buildings in town instead of letting them decay. The other issue is there was a person who was denied a permit who wants to add a room to his house and an ADA bathroom. And I think you're not adding you're not adding water tap by adding bathroom. And this really becomes an ADA issue, and it's not something I would recommend that the town take on if it can avoid. Because you want to meet the needs of ADA people rather than stopping them.
Clarifying question for you, is this something, an opinion that the attorney could review?
Yes, I can talk to the attorney too.
And then also in terms of the spirit of the water tap moratorium and folks not being incentivized to consume more water, given the intent of that moratorium, even if it's not a new tap, are there other ways in which we could disincentivize increased use of water?
You can change the rates. People use more than you want. Years ago, people were promoted by getting lower water rates when they used more water. And today, with the conservation movements and trying to be far more conscious of the amount of water you're using, especially as we really are experiencing pretty severe droughts, we need to look at water in a different way. It's an incredible resource that we shouldn't just be not paying attention to. So if you want to look at those, we can work up some proposals on how you address water rates and how it treats everybody fairly and those kind of things, but also disincentivizes people from using a lot.
I'm curious what other trustees think, but I would be interested in requesting that you and staff look at what possibilities we might have there around, incentivizing folks who use way less water and disincentivizing folks who are using more water, what that might look like so that we can, continue to adhere to the spirit of the moratorium while also getting that legal review on the moratorium I will just say, on a personal note, we've been shopping for homes for my parents. We're moving back from Hotchkiss, and the real estate agents always have a different answer as to what you can and can't do and what's legal and not legal. And I have a friend who's trying to sell his house, and the current buyer is telling him that what he has currently is illegal. And there's just a lot of lack of clarity, which is, you know, at least in that housing market, I think, not doing a service to private property owners in Paonia. And I'm all about water conservation, and so I think I'm wondering if we could maybe do both. There's a pathway forward to do both.
I would like to see an upcoming agenda item that addresses both water rates, incentivizing, disincentivizing, as well as clarifying, not necessarily writing any more ordinances, but clarifying our understanding of the moratorium as it stands and the ordinances in that regard that are.
I think it's very common for towns to increase the rate per 1,000 gallons after a certain, there's a stepwise, the first 10,000 gallons or something, there's a certain rate. The second 10,000 goes up a tier, and then if you use 30,000 or whatever, it goes up to the next rate. So it's not uncommon for that kind of scheme to happen.
Yeah, and certainly I know we had a restructuring relatively recently. I'm just curious, in light of the stage 3 drought, you know, emergency from the governor, and you know, where we are in terms of managing our own water, what options there might be for, you know, even interim things that we can do during this drought to really further incentivize both those folks who are doing a good job and disincentivize heavy use, so that we can allow folks who need to build a bathroom on their bottom floor to do so without any hesitation, especially when they have a handicap. So thank you for looking into that for us. I think, do we need to make a motion on that, or is it just a discussion?
I believe that the correct way to get something added to the agenda is to you can either go through the mayor or directly to Sam and just request that an agenda item be added. I don't believe we can make motions on things that aren't currently agendized.
Which brings up another issue. I had a discussion earlier today about when items come up that people want to add to the agenda. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but a lot of boards use a thing called a parking lot. And you just, wherever that board is that's got the paper on it, you just write that item that people identify on it, and that means it'll come up on a future agenda. So it puts it on paper, it immortalizes that the issue was brought up, and it reminds you to put it back on something in the future. But you don't address it that day. Is that something you'd be interested in?
I certainly would be interested in that. I feel like a lot of times we hear from the public and we don't have a lot of recourse as to writing down, yes, we heard you and we're gonna address this thing. And I think a parking lot, it's new to me, so I'd love to learn more about it, but I think it sounds like a great way for us to, you know, really put a pin in something that we're gonna come back to, and to have the public know that that's gonna happen, you know, before the 4 days when we get the agenda in our meeting, so that there's some public formal, you know, communication around that and a way to sort of flag it for the future. So thank you for suggesting the parking lot.
And I'll do that with the other issue too. I meant for it to just come up under my report because it came up last night, so there wasn't any way to plan it. And I didn't feel like it was proper to just amend it to, or ask to amend it to the agenda, because it's not a report. So it is something I'll have put up next.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Looks like we're at actions and presentations. Our first action this evening is consideration of agreement with Red Feather Bowman for the Smith Center. And who will be making the staff report on that?
She's not here, so I can hear that.
Oh, Thank you.
This organization is very integral to the operation of the Smith Center and events that we have coming up here because I participate in those also. They had an understanding that $1 million liability is enough. And based on the Government Immunity Act, the Colorado Government Immunity Act, we need to be, that number just keeps climbing because what happens with payouts of lawsuits just keeps climbing. So right now that's, I think, $1.43 million instead of 1 million. And talking to other insurers for people who are doing the events, they are really strongly encouraged to carry as much as $3 million of liability because that's exactly what's happening. As a local government, they are protected above that 1.43, but the organization's not. If they have an event or if they do something that someone gets injured with, their liability can go pretty high.
Especially when they're using weapons.
Yeah, so we just want to encourage people to think that through. There wasn't a lot of time to go through it this time, though. Throwing an issue like that at an organization that's small and really can't plan too well, that in that short of a situation, because they are looking at already being involved in 2 events in the next month. We talked about it and we're kind of at this point, okay, with the $1 million, but that in the future, we need to really look at that again. The one thing that they do need to do is ask their insurer to change the also insured amount because it says that it's only, we're only covered for negligence and we just need to be covered for liability.
And so that issue would be remedied by listing the town as additional insured.
Well, we're listed, but there's a qualifier. And we're trying to tell them we need to have them remove that qualifier.
So as far as this contract goes, that is where we're at with it.
I think you can approve it pending update of the liability, the also insured liability, naming the town.
Then how do we ensure that going forward, the insurance coverage is changed as a requirement?
I think we just tell them now that when it comes up for renewal, we're going to have a higher rate. But they're not a big group, and making that kind of change in 2 or 3 days, they said too expensive right now without some planning.
Any questions, any other questions from the trustees? Are there any public comment on this topic? One on Zoom? Okay. Is there any other questions or discussion before I entertain a motion?
This is not necessarily for us to resolve, but I do wonder if there, or to determine, but I wonder if there is any like state offered indemnity that could be of benefit to this group for, public services like this. Just throwing that out there, that there might be some potential services from the state to that effect that could benefit them.
It covers governments, it doesn't cover nonprofits.
Okay.
That's why we're okay if it stops at 1.43 because we're protected above that.
Yeah, I understand. When I worked in the museum industry and we shipped very expensive art, there was government programs that offered indemnity to non-state agencies. So I don't know of one, but I just wanted to put that out there in case it might benefit the organization.
Thank you very much.
It's your check.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion if someone is ready.
I really like that there's a potential motion in the agenda. I'd like to move to conditionally accept the lease with Red Feather Bowman to the Smith Center's use for a period of 12 months or until the town enacts an agreement for the building's management that supersedes the lease. providing Red Feather Bowman furnishes the proper liability insurance documentation.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Next action item up is consideration of appointing 2 trustees to the hiring committee for the town administrator hiring process. And will the clerk's office be giving a report on that?
Should, but,
Okay.
all right, I'll just read what Samira has written down.
Okay.
The town is moving forward with the town administrator hiring process following the issuance of RFP 2026-03 for an executive search firm. As part of the process, the hiring committee will be formed to assist with review, coordination, and participation in the recruitment process. To ensure board representation and involvement in the process, staff is requesting that the board appoint 2 trustees to serve on the hiring committee. Interim Administrator Greg Sun will also provide the names of staff members who have expressed interest in participating in this committee. The hiring committee will work in coordination with selected executive search firm and town leadership to support the recruitment process for the town administrator position. I have more info on it. That's all right.
Thank you. Well, I guess that's any questions, trustees. I mean, I'm curious about interest and who would like to I would like to volunteer to be on that committee, but if there are other volunteers that want to be on it, I don't feel like I have to be, so.
There's 2, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm also interested in being on it, but again, I don't wanna take anybody's spot if anyone has a burning need to be on it. Sheree, I know you're quite busy already, so.
Yeah, we could maybe fit one more thing in.
I'm curious if trustee Foster has to be on that committee.
Yes.
I'd be interested, but like you guys, I'm not like, fighting for the seat either. But I'm happy to serve.
Trustee Sharp,
Um,
have any desire?
Yeah, I don't have a strong desire, but I'd be willing to do it if I didn't want to do it.
I'll do it, I'll do it. I guess, wait, before I say that, what does this entail? Like time-wise?
It's hard to say, a big part of it is up to the recruiter and how they manage the recruitment. But the first part would be reviewing the proposals from recruiters and picking one.
Yeah.
And then when that's done, they go through and they create a short list, and this committee would help review those.
Yeah, I would be happy to.
I think representing Samira has joined. The township.
Thanks. Yeah, I think, I've been involved in a lot of different hiring processes, both in government and in the private sector, and I would be happy to lend that experience to this endeavor.
Is there any public comment on this action?
Could I just suggest some names to for staff?
Of course.
Jordan Redden is interested, so is Matt Lemminger and Sam Better. 3 of them are interested. Jordan and Sam have served on the last one, so if you want to pick one or the other, that would be okay. They both said that. If you want to do all 3, that's all right too. Because I think there's value in having staff involved and knowing who applies and what their qualifications are and those kind of things. Because I get to work with them all the time.
So I have a question on the agenda item. It looks like
Mhm.
what I'm reading is we're just appointing the trustee members, and you were gonna let us know of the intro. But are we appointing staff members at this time or just trustees?
I don't want to be the one to appoint them, so I would just prefer you.
Well, I'm fine with all 3 of them. I think having a representative from Public Works, Police, and admin makes sense. I don't want to overburden them though, because I know that they're all incredibly busy already, and I know this will be somewhat of a laborious process. Um, but I think, all three of them would certainly add to the conversation.
I guess I just want to I do want to speak to what I am continually told by the mayor, that the public works staff is just too stressed to respond to any outside requests. And so if we are to support Jordan and his desire to be part of this committee, I would want to understand that there was some sort of management plan in place to support an additional item that's being brought on board, because I've been told very clearly that they can handle no new work right now. So I think it would be appropriate if we were to, I agree with Trustee Foster, having a representative from Public Works makes a lot of sense. However, I am getting mixed messages on availability and timing, and lacking a director of Public Works. I'm a little concerned about time, how time is being allocated and prioritized in the Public Works Department. That doesn't mean I'm saying no, I just am requesting that there be some sort of management plan and clear delineation of how much time is appropriate for that staff person to take, and how they can manage new requests as they become necessary.
I sort of feel if he was willing to volunteer to do this, his input would be valuable.
I
So
agree.
I would say we ought to leave it to him and say, if you'd like to be on the hiring committee, you're welcome to be. And then we'd also have Matt, police chief, and the clerk. So, and then ask Jordan if he wants to be on. We'd welcome his input.
I certainly would welcome his input. I am, however, concerned because I've been told several times they have no more capacity. So I'm just curious where that capacity is going to come from, and if there's a way for them to manage that internally, and we can trust that.
So that Jordan doesn't get overstressed.
Yes, that Jordan isn't overstressed.
So I'm on here. So I wasn't on for the entirety of the whole thing. I just kind of stepped in for Director Heiniger when he was originally in, because I believe that was the time he was going through some health issues. So I guess I'm not sure what's fully involved in it, but I did have to do some of the interviewing process and some of that sort. If it's a little bit higher end, I guess I need to know a little bit more of what the commitment is. But that doesn't mean I'm not interested in it.
Here, when Administrator Sund covered what he understands to be the beginning of the process, and then that we don't really know how long or far it's going to go.
I think I might have missed that part. Could we just briefly go over it again?
Each recruiting agency probably uses a slightly different process for getting applicants to apply. Some of them make personal phone calls, some of them just advertise. There's a full range of how they do that. And they use different advertising methods. So the amount of time it takes to get through that process can change, but the amount of work involved in it is probably pretty simple. So the first part of it depends on how many recruiting agencies put in proposals, because this committee would be reviewing them and making a recommendation to the board. And then there would be a stop for a while everything is organized and advertised, and then they come back with applicants. But it doesn't have to be a long process. I was very surprised to see that the deadline date is February of 27, because I just went through a recruitment myself, and it only took 3 months.
Great. And we just did that to Pattern. We'd love to take 3 months. Right.
That brings up a question that I have. So like Trustee Hunter pointed out, the suggested motion is like pretty specific to appointing trustees, but I have a few questions about the RFP and some potential changes there. Is this the appropriate time to talk about that as well? Or I guess, do we need to finish up the conversation about staff first?
I think we need to finish up, the, hiring committee. We need a motion on that.
Public trust on the bill, please.
And we still have public comment on it.
Jordan has his hand up.
Jordan,
It does sound like a lot, but I'm wondering if it could be a kind of where if I am not able to step in, maybe my understudy or somebody else from Public Works would be able to have some input. Of course, having talked with, me involved or anybody else involved first, but I do want there to be a Public Works presence in it. Just for that kind of continuity that the whole town's working together.
thank you. That makes sense. I think it's very important that we have public works involved. Anything else from trustees? Okay. Public, Mr. Brown?
Elliot Brown in town. Hey, everybody, nice to see you. So I am, at this point, I'm gonna put in an application for trustee, and I'm interested in participating in the committee for the administrator. I know I've only had limited interaction with most of you guys, but I've been in Paonia and Hotchkiss area almost 10 years now. I had a building where Wild Wood Shop was for 5 years. I've, been my own boss, self-employed for most of my career. I'm an agronomist. I graduated from Purdue University. Agronomy is science farming, where agriculture is practice farming. So like the folks that work at the Rogers Mesa Extension farms over there, those are the same, caliber of education that I have. So I have it. And also being self-employed, I've had 1 foot in business world and 1 foot in agriculture for the entirety of my career. So the camera issue kind of sparked my own interest, where I've always been kind of averse to local politics, but I think that my experience lends a lot to offer. And my life at the current point gives me the time and the bandwidth to give, the full 2-year commitment, as well as reasonable amount of attention on a consistent basis. So I just wanted to let you know that. I don't know how juggling and timeline it is, or if you can appoint or however it happens, but if it's worth postponing this decision that you're talking about right now for future consideration once the next trustee is in place, might be worth it. So just want to let you guys know that and share that, and any questions I can answer along the way, don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you very much.
Christina Patterson, out of town. I appreciate everybody stepping up to this position, and I really appreciate Calrose trustee Ostrander with her expertise and what he brings specifically. Also, I do think it's important to have like a new trustee on that committee, like fresh eyes, fresh perspective. Also, just concerned about the timeline. It sounds like it's going pretty far out into next year. And just wondering if by that time, hopefully, we will have a head of Public Works. And maybe that person would like to be on it representing Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. Anybody else? Come on up, you're our next contestant.
Neville Short in town. At the last meeting, I thought that there was a great deal of concern over hiring a firm. And because it seemed like it was a whole lot of money to be spent. And there was not a lot because there weren't a lot of people here, but there was significant amount of concern expressed by the public. And I haven't heard anything from you tonight with respect to that or acknowledging that. And that causes me concern because it just seems to me that there's a great deal of money that's being spent on things that I'm not saying are frivolous, but that are not including public comment. And that causes me to be concerned about the town and the transparency of the town council with the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this subject?
I got like 15 more seconds if I could take it.
Time is over. Awesome. Your time is over.
Oh, it's over, I think it's absolutely, I think it's, yes.
Thank you.
There's nobody in doing.
Okay. Is there any other questions or comments from trustees?
Yeah, I think I just wanna maybe address one thing that was brought up just now in a couple of comments is there's a lot of gaps currently in the town, and you illustrated that all the positions we're currently looking to fill right now, and we're juggling a lot. The staff is juggling a lot with the early and unanticipated exit of our previous administrator. The new administrator is also juggling a lot. I have full confidence in the capacity of folks. I also know that last time we did discuss why we need work. I the discussion with the board about desire for this, and explicitly the mayor saying that she did not have the time or capacity to take on managing the whole project. Do you guys also recall that discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think normally, you know, can we save $25,000? Always a good idea. But in this case, we have a lot of holes and we're trying to get a lot of work done. I think it's an imperfect and unfortunate situation. But I think in this case, a firm can help ease the administrative burden that we're already dealing with. So just to address the town comment there, and then about timing, you know, the timing is just a little long on all of these things. When the new trustees come on board, I'm sure there can be room for conversation and like, you know, input in those processes. I don't think anything, you know, we can always come back and change something. It's not ideal, but if there's really a desire or need for that, I think that this isn't, you know, governing is an iterative process. So I just want to respond to some of what I'm hearing and also speak for what I see as a trustee and what I know we've spoken about previously when it comes to this particular hiring process.
Thank you, trustee Ostrander.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, you know, this is just the RFP. We can also always decide that we don't want to hire anyone and do it internally if the bids come back too high or inappropriate for our needs. But I do think that there is we want to make sure that we do our due diligence to get the best candidate pool possible, and hiring a professional firm that is well versed in this process and the intricacies of hiring someone in a bureaucratic position will benefit us in the long run.
Thank you. Or anyone else? Hey.
I would like to make a motion that trustee Hunter and myself are added to this committee. Can I do that for myself?
You can I offer further comment?
Yes.
Again, happy to serve. 2 cents worth, given that you were the highest vote getter and trustee Foster was the second highest vote getter. If we have a bunch of people that are willing to do it, I would recommend putting you two in that position. No, if either of you don't, I'm happy to serve.
Good point.
Trustee Foster?
That's fine. We can do that.
I jumped the gun, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So do we need to amend?
She never finished.
Never finished? Okay, this is somebody finish.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to appoint trustee Foster and myself, trustee Ostrander, as the trustee members for the search for the firm, the hiring firm. And as well as the 3 staff, Samara Vetter, Jordan, Redden, and Matt Lemminger as staff representatives.
I'll second.
All in favor? All opposed? That motion carries. Next item agenda is a consideration of process for the ad hoc short-term rental committee to fill
Well-
vacant.
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem. I think this is where we might need to potentially add, and I don't, maybe that's not correct, but I would like to discuss the RFP and some potential changes to that before, and I think we might need a motion to approve that.
Didn't we approve it at
we
the
did.
June 9th meeting? We
Yeah,
did,
approve
at
it.
the last regular meeting.
Oh, was that the, okay. Okay,
Wait.
so there's no more changes to that?
No.
Okay.
Let's see. Consideration of process for the ad hoc short-term rental committee to fill vacant community member seat and request from facilitator Scott Brown about committee membership. So. Looks like we have a report from town clerk Vetter. Should I read this into the record? Okay, thank you.
Okay. This is from Samara Vetter, town clerk. With Administrator Williams spending the remainder of his contract time working on finishing up new projects and improving.
Sorry, if you're
Item
maybe
three.
speak up, please. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
And we're at agenda item 3.
I can't hear anything. Some,
It's me, hold on.
I can't hear anything.
I'm not.
Speaking out.
Okay,
Trying to
Sorry.
scroll. Here we go. All right. The ad hoc short-term rental committee has a vacant community member seat following Julie Bennett's resignation. Bennett's resignation. The board is being asked to consider the process for filling the vacancy and to consider a request from the committee regarding committee membership. On June 12th, 2026, facilitator Scott Brown emailed the board of trustees and stated that he, Sam Staley, and trustee Fisher agreed that Julie Bennett's seat should be filled before future short-term rental committee meetings move forward. Mr. Brown also recommended that the board consider adding It looks like my laptop disconnected. Okay. You guys hear me okay? All right. Sorry about that. My internet connection went down for a second. Mr. Brown also recommended that the board consider adding a third community representative to assist with deliberations, providing coverage when a community representative is absent and to address overall optics. He further stated that having a representative from the common ground on the committee would likely be beneficial to the overall effort. Mr. Brown noted that there was an application process for the original community member appointments and suggested reviewing those prior applications, possible candidates. The board may discuss whether to use the prior application pool, open a new application period, appoint from prior applicants, modify committee membership, or provide other direction.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk Santiago.
And I believe Mr. Brown is also online.
Okay. Mr. Brown, would you like to add anything to your report?
Maybe. Mr. Brown, can you hear us?
I don't think so.
I don't think they can hear us.
We can hear you.
Okay.
There he is. Hello, Mr. Brown.
Did you hear my response? I don't have anything to add to the report, but I'm happy to answer questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you want to just appoint one community member or two?
Two, one from, hopefully ideally from Common Ground, I feel Scott, we discussed and feel that would be very beneficial addition to that board, and we absolutely need one more community member at least. And that, knowing that we have a prior applicant pool, I think is great, because perhaps there are some people that would like to be on it now. Maybe we can go ahead and use that resource as a tool and reach out and then put some advertising out. This is something I think that we can definitely get resolved fairly quickly. If we can get a team together. We've got this. I need the community involved.
I just wanted to note that that committee chose those people. Okay, not the board.
Okay.
The board chose the other committee members, they chose the public.
Right, the board just determined the makeup of the committee, not the members.
Right.
And my recommendation to the ad hoc committee would be to follow a similar process, just so it's the same as what has been gone through before, but I would have no issue with you guys adding a third.
Okay, so the ad hoc, the short-term rental committee themselves should go ahead and vet.
I mean,
Or go through a
I believe that the board needs to approve the addition of a third community member, because the board originally came up with the makeup of that ad hoc committee. But I have no problem having the board instruct the ad hoc committee to move forward with appointing those people in a similar fashion to how you've done before. That's my 2 cents worth.
Seems perfectly reasonable.
Do other trustees have
If you
comments?
notice that I moved too, looking for that last thing.
Comments or anything,
Are any other questions or comments on it?
I do have a question. I know I'm new to it and I haven't met with it yet as a board representative. I did read Julie Bennett's resignation, a letter, and I think she in it asked for some changes to its scope. And it sounded like the scope had narrowed over time, and what it began with was not where it ended up with. So I'm just curious if Scott, as the facilitator, if you believe the board needs to address that issue of scope that Ms. Bennett outlined in her resignation letter at this time.
Looks like he heard.
Scott, did you?
Scott, did you hear the question? He might have been frozen.
I think he's frozen.
Do you have any insight into that?
I do not have as much, yes.
Your hand.
Clerk Better?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I think I was having a technical glitch. I'll respond to trustee Ostrander. That limited scope has been raised as a concern since I got involved in this issue. In reflecting on it, I think why not let the committee address the 7 points that are written into my contract and then bring those recommendations to the board. And if the board needs the committee to do more, then we could do more. Kind of my sense of it.
Thank you. Clerk Better?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Can you guys hear me okay? Yes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was having technical difficulties when I first got on. I was going to point out, like Mr. Brown did, that narrowed scope is actually written into the scope of his contract. But there had been talks in the future of once it started moving the topics that were not on that list, it was because they were dealing with either executive or administrative functions that needed to be decided by the board. But there's always the opportunity at that time for the board to set a work session and talk through those things with the ad hoc committee or with the public or however it is. And I know that had just been something that had been talked about in the past when it came to this. So I just wanted to make sure that you were all aware of that so you can take that into your discussion.
Thank you. People in the audience, seeing hands come up and come down. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add?
Stephen Patterson, Press Road. I think that's a great idea, a work session. The meetings that I have been to on the STR committee have just been very confusing, real sloggy, and not really understandable as to where we started and where we are now. So a work session with interactive with the citizens and the board would be great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Ethel Short in town. I, along with Christina, have been coming to the STR, and I've been hopefully very positive, providing very positive feedback. I've also provided a lot of information regarding STRs that I believe potentially impact this community. And I think that one of the things that I have suggested is that we go back and look at the grant that was put forth that indicated that we needed, it gave us a selection of things that we could work on to achieve that grant, to get that grant. And at the last STR meeting, one of the things that was discussed was that formulating an STR regulation was the low-hanging fruit. And that's not those aren't my words. Those are the words that were spoken at the STR committee, ad hoc committee meeting. And they said that it just seemed like at the time that that was going to be the easiest thing for us to get that grant. There was erroneous information that was regarding how many STRs are in town that was presented. That was debunked. There was erroneous information that was provided regarding why we need to have an STR regulation. The STR regulation was repealed. There was a lot of community input. And again, I think that you're not listening to the public. because the information that has been provided, the studies that I provided you with a study, I was told that it was outdated, even though the date on the study was January of 2026. I provided more information regarding the actual number of STRs that we have here in the community. That was completely ignored. I think that we should temporarily suspend the STR ad hoc committee and revisit the reason why that particular issue was chosen and see if there's one that suits, that has a better ending that could benefit us getting that grant. Am I making sense?
Good timing.
Hold on.
Thank you.
That's my suggestion.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Yes, ma'am.
Refocus the board on the agenda topic. Not stray too much off it. Which is appointing people.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Maintenance. I didn't intend to say anything tonight, but I've been very confused too. I have a short-term rental for 14 years to get town approved. And when this all started, I feel like it's government overreach and that it's all about that money and that we've got to have an ordinance or we're going to lose that money. And I have wondered, what is the lowest thing if we do have to go ahead with the ordinance? What is the thing that can be created that is the least effect on the short-term rents? Now, the other thing that's confused me is this all started because of affordable housing. And the thing of it is, most of us who do this, our houses are not affordable. Our rent wouldn't be affordable. If we sold the houses, they wouldn't be affordable. And we're not hearing that anymore about affordable. That's what it was all about, affordable housing. I thought it very interesting in that Mr. Stelter, I've been going to these meetings since 2023. And he came up right from the beginning. The best way for affordable housing is to build it or bring in affordable housing. But of course, the water issue was the problem.
I'm sorry, I think we're a little bit off topic now, because we're just trying to appoint. Get the committee, STR committee vacancy process started.
Okay, and I understand that. I was just going on with what Ethel had said. And I have questions. I want to get some of these questions answered.
I absolutely understand. I have questions too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other public comment?
It's better.
I can't see, there's the screen's black.
Clerk better.
Okay, clerk better.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Sorry. I just wanted to toss out there because I know this has gone in a bunch of different directions that if you guys are going to change the makeup of the board, we're going to need to do that in a formal motion. And as I put in my staff report too, we may need you guys to ask for Mr. Brown's contract to come back because it might need to be extended depending on what process the committee uses to add more members. So I just wanted to toss that out there for you.
Thank you.
The Brown knows 110.
Mr. Brown? Yeah.
Meeting preparation. So I'm kind of questioning whether it makes sense for the ad hoc committee to appoint those additional people, or if it might be quicker, easier for the Board of Trustees to do that this time around. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I'd like to pick up with the board discussion again. I'm curious what the trustees think as far as the potential complicating factor of whether adding a third community member would require revisiting the contract. And maybe at this point, we just direct the ad hoc committee to fill the vacancy that currently exists in the same manner that they appointed the other members. And then if the committee wants to come back to the board asking for a third community member, we can address that separately.
Hearing different things, that I'm hearing like, does the committee need to exist right now? What is it doing? And then if we're gonna add a third member, which is the request of the committee, it's gonna potentially take more money. So I don't really, I don't know, I feel a little bit confused right now, because if we tell them to just fill the current spot, that's not what they asked us for in order to move forward. They felt they needed to have a person added. And
Well, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. This is a discussion. I feel like we should talk about it a little bit, because it seems like there's like multiple considerations for how we would move forward.
And I think we did get a little off track. So just going back to the agenda item, consideration of process for ad hoc short-term rental committee to fill vacant community member seat, and request from facilitator Scott Brown about committee membership.
And then I had asked a question of if it was just refilling that one seat, and the answer was no, they had wished to bring 2 people on, correct?
Yes.
And that's what extended the conversation, and then Clerk Vetters, I believe Clerk Vetter, correct me if I'm wrong, telling us that if we add another person, that could extend the need for the facilitator, in which case we may need to amend his contract, although perhaps we could just do one thing at a time. And not try to do it all at once.
Sam's there.
Thank you. Clerk Vetter?
I apologize. I did not mean to be confusing. I wasn't trying to imply that if you add another member, that it would mean we would need to extend Mr. Brown's contract. If you guys were to have them this is just a thought. If you were to have them choose a member, they could choose a member of Common Ground that was interested. Or the original way it was done is we put an application out on SurveyMonkey, and then the board or the ad hoc committee actually interviewed people who were interested themselves and made a choice. I mean, they reported back to the Board of Trustees that their membership was complete, but outside of that, they found their own members. So that's one easy way that you could solve it. And you may not need to have his contract extended. I just wanted to make sure that we kept in mind, because Mr. Brown has been doing a wonderful job facilitating, and, trying to keep everything on track. And if he's going to continue to do that, I just want to make sure that he has the time he needs to do it is all. So I apologize. I didn't mean to be confusing at all. You can choose to add another member. You can let them do whatever process they would like to fill that. They just need some guidance from the board, since ultimately it is your ad hoc committee that you've tasked them with work. So this is just the proper process for it to go through.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So again, I'd be inclined to make a motion, just kind of checking in with the other trustees as far as directing the ad hoc committee to fill the vacancy and bring on another community member.
I would second that motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to direct the ad hoc short-term rental committee to fill the vacant seat and add an additional community member seat, and to fill those vacancies by the committee.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes.
Just a reminder that the next agenda item is that we added Clay's comment, or whatever Clay needed to add to agenda item 4. So I don't know when you wanna.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion for the work session regarding STRs?
I don't believe that was agendized.
But it came up in the discussion, so I'm just wondering if that's something that we should do now to make sure it gets done.
Can we put that in the parking lot?
Yep.
Okay.
Already coming in handy.
Does that work for you, Trustee Foster?
Sure, that's fine. Thank you.
So Clay, do you need to speak with us before we move on to agenda item 4?
Yeah, I believe we added the additional agenda item of discussion of town administrator Nguyen status. And this is a good time to talk about it since the next 3 items and indirectly the fourth, the item 7 as well, kind of flow from that discussion. So I was asked to, based on some questions that were given to the Madam Mayor, to address some of the or address the status of Administrator Nguyen and some of the, I was in on a conversation, so I have, and also gave advice regarding, regarding what the next steps would be for Administrator Nguyen. So I was asked to address this issue. Excuse me, I'm pulling up some of the specific questions, and I thought it would be best to just discuss this in an open meeting since I think everyone should hear it, and so that we're in a candid environment and we're being open about like what's going on with the resignation, etc. So I had put together some dates for you, and I'm going to discuss this in the context of Administrator Nguyen's resignation to resignation, or I guess what we would say intent not to renew, which is an effective resignation for Administrator Nguyen. Just a couple of building blocks for the discussion. Administrator Nguyen's contract required 45-day notice, which would be met long before his July 10th, I believe, exit, based on the dates of the contract. July 12th, excuse me. He gave his notice of resignation well beyond the 45-day required notice in that. And so what the town had determined was that, his contract was not renewing based on that notification. He has accrued a certain amount of paid time off. The way that paid time off works in Paonia, and it's not, again, I'm just reporting information. This is not advice, or I'm not saying this is the best way to do it or how you should do it. I'm happy to answer questions based on how other towns might do it. But basically in Paonia, Administrator Nguyen is, his PTO is more or less determined by when he can take time off. And then I think my understanding is that it's approved by our town, approved in effect by our town clerk. However, I would caution the board to think that the town clerk has any authority in telling the town administrator if and when he can take time off, because she technically reports to the town administrator in this situation. Effectively, and this is a common, this is common enough. It's not how all towns do it, but effectively town administrators take time off when they can, based on their schedule, what's going on with the town, etc. Obviously, you don't want a town administrator taking 2 weeks off at the beginning of budget or end of budget season, etc. But that would be a performance issue that the board could address. So with that kind of infrastructure in place, there was a discussion. Administrator Nguyen had overlapped with the interim town administrator, Mr. Greg Sun, for a few days, I believe, and then determined that he was going to use his paid time off to attend a family event and work remotely with the town. The discussion was such that there's really no way for the board or anyone else to prevent Administrator Nguyen from doing this. As the board is aware, and I don't mean this tongue in cheek, I mean, we can't force somebody to work. And so if somebody wants to take time off or they want to just not show up to work, that can become a performance evaluation issue, but it's not something that the board can really force, at least not under our current policy. Obviously the best working environment is one where the town administrator would make sure that things were in place before they take pay time off. And in this situation, I'm not saying that Administrator Nguyen didn't do that. I do know that Administrator Nguyen is on his pay time off, which he has accrued more than enough to take his pay time off through the contract date of July 12th, which is what I believe is happening. I don't think he's going to return physically to perform any of his duties as a town administrator, but he is available to our interim town administrator and finishing out remotely a few of our major tasks, which is what Administrator Nguyen had illustrated or indicated to staff and to myself in that meeting, that he was not going to leave the town hanging, that he wanted to make sure that he was available, but that this opportunity came up that he thought was important to take his paid time off for, to spend with his family and his daughter at a family event. And so we're not just so the board is aware as well. I think one of the questions was, well, what about how do we approve the payout? The payout per the contract states that all pay time off will be given to an employee that resigns or leaves that's been accrued. And so our policy is such that not including the disallowed carryover, which is not and which we're not contemplating in this circumstance, that pay time off will accrue. And then if somebody were to resign, then they are entitled to their pay time off because it's earned as any other employee would earn pay time off in most situations. And so that pay time off is accrued to them. It could be either accredited to them if they, for example, were to resign and then work through a certain date and they had, say, however many hours, 40 hours saved up, then they would get paid the value of that 40 hours. In this case, Administrator Nguyen is not going to get paid the time that he's taken off. He's just getting paid as if he were at work, which is the normal circumstance, that pay time off means you get paid even though you're not physically at or otherwise performing your responsibilities under the agreement. And so in this case, Administrator Nguyen did have enough pay time off to take and to complete his contract through July 12th. And that's what he has chosen to do. Again, with the caveat that he remains available to Greg Sund and myself if need be, for continuity to finish out some of the major projects that are coming up, coming and due. I believe before July 10th was the date for a couple of those major issues, and he is still in communication. I'm not going to speak for Administrator Sund, but that I know that they're still in communication and that there is still continuity there and some overlap. I'm obviously not privy to the details of that. So I wanted to make sure that I answered some of the questions from the trustees that are good questions. How is it possible for this to happen? Meaning, how does the pay time off work for the town? What's the policy? Have we approved an extra time or money to Administrator Nguyen beyond what has already been discussed? Meaning like the PTO payoff, which we really don't have, at least under these circumstances, the ability to withhold. And then how is it such that Administrator Nguyen can be absent through the remainder of his contract? And so I hope I've answered those questions, and I'm happy to answer any other questions from any of the trustees, because I understand it's kind of it was an unforeseen situation. And again, I'm trying to present information. I'm not advocating for one side or the other. I understand that there may be questions and I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you very much.
I have a clarifying question. I have two clarifying questions, Clay. The first is, you're saying July 12th, we have an email from the clerk saying July 10th. Can you clarify which date it is?
I believe the email from the clerk was the July 10th, and I have to go back and look at them. There's a lot of email traffic. Maybe Sam can. I think yeah, no, I got it here. The email from the clerk is referring to 2 projects that require completion by July 10th. And so that is very close to the term the term of the contract being July 12th. And so I think that might be where, because I was confused at that as well, because July 12th is where the contract ends by not renewing, but July 10th is 2 projects that are requiring completion. And Administrator Nguyen, by my understanding at least, is still continuing to work with Administrator Sun to make sure that those projects successfully cross the finish line.
Thank you for that clarification. The other clarification is the clerk's email talks about him working remotely on 2 projects, like you just mentioned. However, it does not talk about his availability, which you also mentioned. Is that true that he will be available to the administrator and any other questions that may come up from the board in this time period?
I can't answer that directly. I can only say that my understanding of being a part of that conversation was Administrator Nguyen's stated intent. And I have no reason to believe that he's not going to fulfill that. But there's no, again, anytime he works versus the paid time off that he has and can burn is really at his discretion at this point. Historically, from my foxhole, I have seen Administrator Nguyen do everything he said he was going to do. And I don't believe that he wants to leave the town hanging. And I do believe that, he is in good faith going to help with continuity with Administrator Sund. But I don't know, I can't guarantee anything because, that's a third party that I have no control over.
Better?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The July 10th date, I believe Clay is right as well. But part of that was, that would have been a typo on my part, just because when Administrator Nguyen first announced his intent to not renew his contract, the July 10th is a Friday, so it would have been likely his last in-person day, even though his contract actually ends on July 12th. So I just had that date stuck in my head. July 12th is the end of his contract. He's always stated his intention to make sure to get the budget amendment and finish the audit. He's always wanted to make sure that was finished before he left. And I can confirm, unless something's changed in the few days that I've been gone, which I don't think they have, I probably would have heard about it, is that he is available to Administrator Nguyen and the mayor and the town attorney whenever they need him until that July 12th date is in effect. So my apologies for the confusion on the July 10th date. That was my bad.
Administrator Sund, can you confirm that he has said he'll be available to you to answer questions?
Yes, he has. We've done some conference calls and communicated by email already several times.
So, are we ready to move on to agenda item number 4?
I would just like to make a general statement here. I think that this is it, again, as the lawyer has pointed out, nothing that we have any control over. It was not agreed to and was not our understanding. And part of the reason we really jumped into hiring an intern was to try to get as much overlap as possible. So I do feel like there is some difference in direction that deserves to be acknowledged publicly, and I don't, it's nothing we can do about it at this point, water under the bridge. Appreciate that things are getting finished and done, it was not what we initially had agreed to. And it was not my understanding for why we rushed so quickly to get the new admin on, although I'm very glad that he was able to come on so quickly. But I do just want to note that this was not what we'd initially agreed to. And it bears just saying publicly that we understand that, and that we also understand the circumstances and nature of what is occurring. Thank you, Clay, for the explanation.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, trustee Ostrander.
Does the public get to speak on this, or is it an agenda item or not?
That was, I think, just information from town attorney. The next agenda item will be consideration of appointing interim town administrator son to the planning commission.
Yeah.
Will be the next.
Yeah, and that was that's my transition, and I'll, quit talking. But obviously now that Administrator Sund is physically here and more or less in the driver's seat, which is a good thing for the town overall. Obviously with Administrator Wynn's physical absence, that's why that was important to put in here as an urgent matter that related to the next few items, which are making the proper decisions regarding Administrator Sund's and recognize Administrator Sund's positions and authority moving forward. Thank you to the entire board, and I'm always available for questions.
Thank you, Clay.
Again,
Okay.
Consideration of appointing interim town administrator Greg Sund to the planning commission. Mayor Vetter, with Administrator Wynn spending the remainder of his contract time working on finishing several projects and interim town administrator Greg Sund taking over the day-to-day operations, it may be appropriate to appoint Mr. Sund to Mr. Wynn's seat on the planning commission. Paonia Municipal Code Section 2-6-30 provides that the planning commission include one administrative member appointed by the mayor. Mr. Sund has indicated that he would be willing to occupy the administrative member seat while he is serving as town interim administrator.
Questions from the trustees? Any questions from the public? I will entertain a motion.
I move to support the mayor's appointment of interim town administrator Sund to serve as the administrative member of the planning commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion has passed. Next action item is consideration of appointing interim town administrator Sund to the ad hoc short-term rental committee.
This one too. All right. With Administrator Wynn spending the remainder of his contract time working on finishing a few projects and interim administrator Greg Sund taking over the day-to-day operations of the town, may be appropriate for the board to appoint Mr. Sund to serve on the ad hoc short-term rental committee. The ad hoc short-term rental committee includes staff participation as part of the committee structure. Because Mr. Sund is currently serving as interim town administrator and handling day-to-day administrative operations, his participation would allow the committee to continue receiving administrative input and coordination while he is here. Mr. Sund has indicated that he will be willing to occupy the seat while serving as interim town administrator. The board may consider whether to appoint Mr. Sund to the committee for the duration of this interim service or until further board action.
Thank you. Any discussion from the trustees? Any public discussion? I don't see anyone on Zoom. I will entertain a motion.
I move to appoint interim town administrator Greg Sund to the ad hoc short-term rental committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion has passed. Now we have the consideration of resolution 1026, appointment of officer treasurer.
Doing this one too?
I don't know. I was gonna ask you, do I read this? Do you read this?
All right, town treasurer Stephen Nguyen is not renewing his contract with the town. The board of trustees has retained Greg Sun to serve as interim town administrator, and Mr. Sun is taking over the day-to-day administrative operations of the town. Resolution 10-26 appoints Greg Sun as town treasurer, so that the town has an appointed officer in place to carry out the duties of the treasurer and support continuity of operations during the interim administration period. The proposed resolution lists only the town treasurer appointment and names Greg Sun as that office. For that office, excuse me.
Thank you. Any trustee discussion?
I would like to ask Mr. Sun to speak to the idea of having the administrator act as treasurer.
I think this is something that is kind of evolving, where this position won't exist very much in the future because it's turning more into a finance director position rather than an officer serving the town in many locations. And in some cases, I've had the clerk serving as a treasurer. That hasn't worked very well in my experience. In this case, if I'm appointed to it, it doesn't mean I'm going to suddenly take over finance. I have a strong background in finance and I know what's going on and how it's operating, but it would still be just overseeing staff. One thing I'd like you to really consider is I'm kind of expecting the audit report to include separation of duties to a greater extent than exists today. And so maybe in the 2027 budget, I will probably put in there that you consider adding another position to the accounting office, which would be another technical position, so that you can better separate duties instead of having one person do most all of the work. I just think that's better business.
Can you tell us a little bit about the title of that position you've seen in other towns? You mentioned it's sort of evolving in this direction. What do people call that position?
They call it finance director if you have the position. I don't know if there's enough work for that to create another department head position out of this. So it might be something that just is a direct report to the town administrator. There's several positions that do that now. And so my position would just be overseeing finance. It wouldn't mean that you're doing it. There's lots of other duties to take care of that I don't need to be talking on a daily basis.
So then you would be, this would be your accountability, but not, or your responsibility for the production of it, but you wouldn't necessarily be producing all of the work if we didn't want you.
I wouldn't see any change in what's being done with the accounting person now. Although there are times I think we shove too much work at that one single person. That's really not good.
Any more discussion, trustees? Any public discussion? On Zoom?
Sina?
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution 1026 appointing Greg Sun as town treasurer.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Now we have consideration of resolution 11-26, authorized signatories.
All right. Resolution 0826, previously designated authorized signatories for application is for new or changes to bank and credit accounts. Due to administrative transition, town administrator Stephen Wade should be removed from the authorized signatory list. Interim town administrator Greg Sun should be added. Resolution 11-26 updates the authorized signatory list and name Greg Sun interim town administrator for preserving the existing structure requiring a combination of staff and elected official or finance committee signatures for new accounts or changes to accounts. The updates, of course, continue thinking of operations and maintains municipal financial external controls during the internal administration period. Interim administration.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Trustees? Zoom, public? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
No. Here is not, I can't.
I move to approve resolution 11-26 designating authorized signatories for applications for new or changes to bank and credit cards.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion has passed. Next, we have an executive session, and would a trustee please make a motion to go into executive session?
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to go into executive session pursuant to section 24-6-402, part 4E CRS in order to determine positions relative to matters that are or may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators regarding a possible agreement for transfer and operation of the water system with Hidden Valley Asia.
All in favor?
Aye.
So is that a public meeting adjourned?
No.
Market had quiche. Like good food, huh?
Clem was there.
Yeah.
French pastry chef.
Guaranteed delicious.
I might be a little bit in love with her.
Tell my boyfriend, I was like, stop bringing me pastries every week, because I eat them all.
Things I would never say.
I was like, I can't handle it once a month.
The time is now 9:04 p.m. and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were attorneys Sheila Stack and Clay Bookner. We have Deputy Clerk Ruben Santiago. Interim Town Administrator Greg Sund. Trustee Ann Lee Foster. Trustee Walter Check. Trustee Calarose Ostrander. Trustee Lucy Hunter. Mayor Pro Tem Sharif Fisher. For the record, Benny Pisson, who participated in the executive session, believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session, in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. I see none. So we are going to move on to our next agenda item, which is Mayor and Trustee Reports Ad Hoc Short-Term Rentals Committee. So this looks like it's an executive summary from Scott. Would you like me to go through this?
Do we need to? I mean, I think if you're on the committee, rather than just reading through something that's in the packet that we've all had a chance to read, if there's anything you'd like to point out.
Yeah, right now, we were tasked with finding a few specific things and we've been able to break down some specifically verbiage and definitions. It's kind of hard to move on right now because we don't have enough people. So the last meeting we had was really information only because we did not have a quorum. We didn't want to waste the meetings and the time, so we asked for public opinion. Everyone to come up, talk, give us information, share information, collect. And so that's what we did. We did define a single room short-term rental as a privately owned bedroom within a primary residence or within the core commercial district that is rented for the purpose of lodging for any period less than 30 days, where other facilities may be shared with the owner of the dwelling. So we have asked that some of the verbiage be changed to properly reflect the state of the single room rentals. And then time frame included in the definition of a primary residence was instead of owner, striking owner and adding a resident. So it'd be a privately owned residential dwelling or property at which the resident resides for at least 183 days per year instead of 200. So we're striking the 200 and making it a little less, a little over 6 months. Then we've got the owner occupied versus non-occupied, non-owner occupied STRs. Feel that we need to shift the focus from owner to resident occupied because there is a difference. That's really about as far as we got. Our next meeting was June 16th. That was canceled where we're going to address some other things. So I think right now we're at a standstill until we can get some community members on the board.
And now that as we have board direction, are we going to solicit those officially?
Yes, I believe that is what we made happen tonight. And that would be great because I think this is something we should address and get done. It's been lingering for a long time.
So do we need to meet to do the solicitation, or is that something that's already in Scott Brown's scope of work?
I'm not sure, we'll have to research that. Not sure. Of course. And if there, is there anything else? Okay. Well, then.
I have a quick one more thing to add, which is, when a parking lot something, I don't, it's.
Oh,
is
yeah.
that okay?
Yes, I'm just.
Administrator Sun, is it appropriate to do a parking lot request?
Sure.
Okay, I'd like to parking lot, the, bringing forward a resolution in support of citizen free speech. With the council, and I'd like to work with staff on, looking at that. I'd also like to look at, and explore a resolution on a data center ban with staff. Those are my two Rs I'd like to.
Here. Got these and I have a pen. I cannot turn and throw out the loose sign, right?
It's what we typically do.
Okay. Well, then we are almost here with tonight's meeting.
Last meeting has the signatures.
Yeah, I guess so just I begin because I'm just still learning all this stuff. How do these come to us? It comes through the finance committee? I understand, but before, does the finance committee look at?
Yeah.
Okay, and then it was brought to my attention that we directly paid a sub, which is not normal practice. Are there any sub payments in this?
There was only one, that was done one time.
That was the rest of Surf Pro for the mold remediation.
No,
That was a good sub.
one of the subs for the 2 million gallon project was paid.
Gotcha.
And that's not a good idea, but it was done.
So we don't have any of that in this fact, but okay, just because I can't tell, but from what's in here, who's a sub and not, so thank you.
I joined this meeting.
Thank you.
Nice.